Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Byron, can you slide over a little for me? Byron, can you slide to the left a little? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for having this meeting. Pretty impressive turnout today. I'd say I counted about 30 aldermen at least that were here, so good turnout. I know throughout the day, I know people have been bouncing in and out. We also had some important briefings also. But I just want to touch on a few things. I may, unfortunately, had to slip out for an hour, so I apologize if I'm repeating some of the stuff that's going on. First, I want to say, Pedro, I just love calling you Pedro. That's Napoleon Dynamite. Got my shirt on today. You know, I got to call you Pedro, okay? So not out of disrespect, but out of love. So I'm one of the 41 that wants you to stay at this tough time. So can't speak for the whole 41, but 41 people did sign a letter. We need stability. Tough times going on right now. At the end of your term, if that's up and the mayor so chooses to pick his new person, I don't have a problem with it. But right now, we need stability in our schools, and you're certainly the man for the cause. Just want to say my principals, pretty much, I have 8 great schools, 8 great principals. I'm very fortunate. Just all awesome principals, teachers, students. You know, couldn't be more pleasant with the education process and the system in my community. Certainly my principals and a great job that they do. I noticed some people were mentioned. I felt very important to mention some people that I deal with, and that's Melissa Stratton, Laro, Jamel, and Jadine. Talk to them every once in a while, so I never have to call you and say these people aren't calling me back. And of course, we all miss Chuck. You know, Chuck is gone. So, is there any plans to get a new IGA person? Do you know, or is that in the works, or is
It's in the works. We definitely want to make sure we build up our team, alderperson, because again, we want to have a strong coalition.
All right, good. Yeah, that's an important position, certainly for us. I think the divided council that we are, I think probably pretty much all 50 people would say we all had a good relationship with Chuck and we appreciated him. Something was touched on by Alderman Calais, and I don't understand this whole funding thing. I'm basically pretty tired of hearing how the northwest side gets all the funding and the west side and the south side don't get any funding. So can you explain to me exactly how it works? And I'm going to give you a simple scenario, and you could tell me if I'm wrong or right. You got a school on the northwest side. They got 500 students, 40 teachers. School on the west side or the south side, 500 students, 40 teachers. Do my schools get more funding than the schools on the west side or the south side? The exact same scenario?
So if the school that has a higher need, alderperson, so whether that's students with disabilities,
Or
higher
IEP.
poverty rates, higher English learners, they always get a lot more resources because the needs are greater.
That's what I thought. So then, in other words, the schools on the northwest side don't get more. So you answered my question. Thank you. In previous, and I don't know this is a legitimate question. Is our current CFO, was she the CFO of CPS before? Was she part of?
Yeah, so CFO, our CFO has been with me since I've been here, but let me let her answer that question. How long you been the CFO?
No, CFO, our current CFO, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The mayor's CFO, Jill. Was
she
she
would know
a CFO at one point in CPS?
No.
Anybody been around long enough? No?
Oh, no, she wasn't the CFO, CPS. She was a financial advisor
Financial
to
advisor, okay.
CPS.
All right, okay, thanks. That was just an honest, curious question. I know there's been talks about cuts at schools. I know principals have to make tough decisions, whether they want to have an art teacher, a music teacher, a librarian. So that's the reason why some schools don't have everything, right? Every one of us can agree on that. We all wish we had art. We all wish we had music. We all wish we had a librarian. But principals have to make tough decisions sometimes, and that's correct, right?
Yes, and what's different, alderperson, is that this year, every school at a minimum for the elementary schools have 3 elective teachers. That has not been true before. And so that allows schools not only to have PE, but also art or music or both, or they could have a third option, which could be a librarian, could be a STEM teacher. We leave that up to the local school council, the principal, and the team at the school.
Okay. And I know there's been some controversy about teachers being cut and losing their jobs. Well, my understanding is I don't understand this, but my understanding is we cut 584 teachers, but yet we offered them all their jobs back, and 505 of them took their jobs back. Did anybody verify? Is that truth or not?
So what we have every year, Alder, is that we first of all guarantee employment for all of our teachers. That's been true since I've been here. We've had teachers that had to move from one school to another just based on need. It's still difficult. I don't want to minimize that. We try to minimize it as much as possible.
Okay, right. And that's another thing. Teachers do somewhat pick their schools, right? I mean, they don't, I know I heard the talk for, more black teachers, more brown teachers. Well, I live in a pretty white community and I have black and brown teachers. I don't think anybody should be forcing them to say, we don't want you to teach in my schools anymore, because if that's where they choose to want to teach, I mean, we welcome them. We welcome you over here. So that's just the way the system works. That's part of the collective bargaining, so on and so forth. I know Alderman Beal mentioned something about Walgreens, and my analogy that I'm using, he used Walgreens, I'm going to use private schools. So I have private schools that are dangling by threads, private schools that have closed all over the place on the northwest side. I'm sure it's the same all over the city. If you don't have the numbers, unfortunately, they have to close down. I have two of my private schools that are dangling by a thread, and every year they're just hoping they get to that 160 students that they need or so, and every year it's real close. So I know, for some reason, people seem to be leaving the city. I don't know, I think you guys said that there's more students in the school this year than there was last year. Did anybody say that?
Yeah, so Alderman, for the last 2 years now, this will be the second year we're seeing enrollment increases after decades of enrollment
Good.
declines.
All right, good. So good. We're seeing increases. Good. That means more jobs. Okay. Is there a proposal, and I don't know if you can comment on this or not, because this may be part of the contract negotiations, but is there a proposal to shorten the instruction time in our schools? That can't be true, is that? I hope you're telling me that's false.
Yeah, so so the conversation we're having, Alderman, to be specific, is how do we provide more planning time for elementary teachers? We're not against that. We think teachers should have sufficient planning time. We are very proud that our schools, our teachers in CPS have more planning time than most districts in the country. With that, we always want to do more. We want to be a leader in the country. The challenge we're having right now is that either requires us to extend the day, which means we have to pay teachers more, or we would have to cut core instructional time. And so we're struggling with that because we know our children need more core instructional time, reading, math, science, and social studies. They don't need less. And so that's just a conversation we're having, a very productive conversation we're having with our union.
Okay. So we're just possibly talking, that's per teacher, not students, a little more preparation time. So maybe
That's right, sir.
teaching 6 hours and preparing for 2 or something like that.
That's right.
Okay, all right, all right, I'm fine with that, and I do want to say, I served on an LSC for 6 years, 4 as a parent rep, 2 as a community rep, so, I put my money where my mouth is in the past. I also went with Alderman Wagasback, I don't know if he mentioned it, we went to Springfield about 10 or 12 years ago, I think, about 6 of us went down there to fight for some more funding, so, I guess we didn't do too good of a job, but that was a long time ago. And I think that's about it for me. I did want to say, one thing, this is a point of information. I know we were talking about the Salval for our schools, and that was the lottery. And I believe the lottery, that was in 1976 when we came up with the lottery money was going to go to our schools. And with the success that we've had, I don't know where that money is going, but we should have tons of money for our schools. So it's nice to see if there's an audit about where all that lottery money is going, because we could certainly use a lot of it. And just lastly, I want to say one thing, because I know one of my colleagues said she wants to see her pool open at her school. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you're opening a pool in her ward, you better be opening the pools in my ward. So you can't just open one pool. You're going to have to open all of them. So I'm not going to stand for that, or most of my colleagues wouldn't say that. And I know it's a complicated thing because you need security. It's hard to get lifeguards nowadays, so on and so forth. So you open one, you're going to have to open all of them. And I don't think it's a bad idea to open them for the community, but you can't just open onesie, twosie here and there. You're going to have to open all of them. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much. I came to the board meeting. I spoke up for you. Appreciate you. Unlike most of my colleagues, I am not upset with the two different boards that didn't show up, because the one is outgoing, the one is incoming. So what's the outgoing one going to say other than we're going out? And what's the incoming one going to say other than we just got here, we don't have anything to say so far. So I'm not all that upset about it. I just would hope the new board at one point, when we have a follow-up meeting, which is that they're willing to come. So with that, I thank you very much. Thank your staff for always being there for me when I call them, and best wishes to you. And hopefully all this gets resolved and we all start living happily together. So thank you. Thank you, Madam.